Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Truly a great honor, this opportunity of to have been invited to this great institution. And I'm very happy, excited about this visit. I will try to be true to the subject that has been given to me, but I will also, in passing, mention about what the Police Foundation is all about and what we hope to achieve through this organization. So we begin here. The first slide is in front of all of us. There is a lot of excitement in this country about India's economic growth. And it is for all of us to see, being the largest economy that is growing fast, large economy that is growing fastest in the world. So the theme of today's discussion is about the importance of internal security and good criminal justice institutions to enable the achievement of our dreams. That is the idea of a strong India, the idea of an economically as well as politically strong India. But we cannot stand on the crutches of the existing governance problems that we all experience. So I'll first go to a couple of slides which will tell us about the international perception about India. Where do we stand? There is something called the Global Peace Index. This is brought about by a very respected research institution based out of New York and Canberra. And they bring out this Global Peace Index every year. And according to their latest publication, India has been placed at 136th rank and Pakistan at 151st rank. We are almost there. And the least peaceful country in the world is Syria. Just before that is Afghanistan. So this is one slide I wanted to place before you. We are globally seen as a fairly low peace country. Then there is something called the Global Terrorism Index. Countries which are most impacted by terrorism. And in this also, India has been ranked 7 in the 2018 ranking. One more slide is there. In terms of number of killings by terrorists, last year we were number 10 in the seniority list. That is, countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, Pakistan, Egypt, Congo, Central African Republic, and India. Now, mind you, India has controlled, and we must give credit to the police and security agencies, that we haven't had major terrorist incidents in the cities, like even Europe has been very badly affected in recent years. But still, India is seen as one of the most impacted country in the world as far as terrorism is concerned, because they also go by the total number of killings by terrorists. And most of these killings, you will find, happened in the red corridor, what is called, the states where the left-wing extremists are, are active, and also in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Some very small number in the Northeast. Northeast is on a recovery path now. So, what I am trying to say is, these two indices, the two indices of Global Peace Index and Global Terrorism Index, they do not give good news to India. So the global perception about India is not very, praiseful of India. This is one thing that we need to keep in the back of our mind when we are talking about policing in the country. So today's discussions are about economic cost of conflict, crime, and public disorder. This picture is very familiar to all of us. Now again, based on this is a renowned university, so we should be talking about research evidence. Again, research done by Institute of Economics and Peace. They have done a calculation that India may have lost something like $1.1 trillion in the year 2017 because of crime, violence. This looks unbelievable. This is 80 lakh crores of rupees. Our defense budget is how much, sir? 50 billion? 50 billion. So that is there is a cost to everything that is happening. I was listening to one of our friends talking. It says that every rape that is reported increases the price of hamburgers in the restaurant. It is a way of telling that every crime that is happening, there is an economic cost to that. And these may not be very accurate figures, but then it is suffice to say that we are sending huge amounts of wealth down the drain because of poor control over our law and order and governance. And preventing such losses and improving productivity is possible by shaping our grassroots level policing, governance, safeguarding citizens' lives and property. Again, a study, a research report published in the International Journal of Business, it has gone into, they have studied FDI in the two countries, two emerging markets of India and Brazil. And they have identified that these were the factors that impacted or that determined or influenced FDI. Inflation, of course. Human Development Index, of course. And they heavily depended on Global Terrorism Index, Global Peace Index, Corruption-Based Perception Index. It's not about corruption itself, but what is the perception of India internationally about corruption and industrial disputes. Now, a person sitting in New York or Washington who wants to invest here in India, he will look at these kind of information that is in the public domain before he takes investment decisions. So, peacefulness and robust governance systems are necessary to improve investor confidence in our country. About the Bandh and Hartal culture, I come from the state of Kerala actually originally. And Kerala, every third day there is a Bandh. Even yesterday we had a very violent, bloody Bandh. Yesterday. In Kerala, very often we go there on vacation. The moment we reach there at the airport, they say, today you can't get a taxi because today is a Bandh. So, like that. Now, these Bandhs also have very huge economic cost. 2 years back, you must have all read in the newspapers, suddenly there was a Bandh announced in Bangalore city. And they went around burning buses and cars and things like that. And the FICCI, or I don't know, one of the, merchants' chambers, they had estimated that 25,000 crores must have been lost on that one single day. Otherwise also, according to some research that is done, in the state of Karnataka, they say that one day's peaceful Bandh will cost 900 crores. A very peaceful Bandh, if nobody burns buses, etc., it will cost you 900 crores. It will be similar in the state of Kerala also, but in Kerala, last year they said they have done in some part of Kerala or other, 102 days out of 365 days, there were Bandhs in Kerala. So that is the statistics that they have. So why I am showing it here is that being an academic institution, this is one area where research has not been done. Very credible kind of empirical research has not happened in this area. And I would call upon the learned people sitting here to kindly think about this possibility, because this needs to be studied, and our politicians need to understand that these kind of indiscriminate call for Bandh and Hartal has a cost, and heavy cost at that. I don't need to explain these things to you, how it affects productivity and obstruction of day-to-day operations, etc. Even a small thing like traffic congestion has a huge economic cost. Of course, traffic congestion is not because of the fault of police only. Police has a role only on traffic regulation, but then there are so many other factors that lead to traffic congestion. But in many of these European and American countries, they have done extensive research on this subject and seen how much money is being lost. But we haven't done that kind of research, and there is a need to do that. About loss of productivity, excess fuel consumption, as well as the direct impact on things like vehicular emission, etc. But then the opportunity cost and even the traffic rage that happens, even that is a cost ultimately. Now we come to another very familiar kind of issue that affects our law and order. That is about safety of women and children. Earlier we used to talk about rape as a major epidemic in the country. And we used to believe that it is only women, grown-up girls or women who get raped. But you have seen even 6-month-old children, infants getting raped in this country. And these are the figures that are officially reported in the NCRB. But mind you, according to our own police calculations, it is only about 30% of the rapes that get officially reported or registered. 70% of the rapes do not get registered, partly because the women who are too scared of informing their parents or others because of societal reasons, or partly because they are too scared to approach the police. Last year, more than 1 lakh cases were reported involving POCSO, that is, cases of violence against children, which included POCSO cases, which is sexual violence against children, which one rough calculation says, out of these reported cases, every 15 minutes, a woman or a child is getting raped in this country. While we are discussing this, already something has happened. So that is the kind of, and these are reported cases, tip of the iceberg. Another major issue is about trafficking. Trafficking, again, the statistics are unbelievable. Trafficking, unlike rape, trafficking just does not get reported at all, because what typically happens is a person goes to an interior village, meets the elders and says that, look, I am from the cinema world, I can give very good opportunity to this girl, you send her with me. That is one way of doing it. Or I will give her a job in some thing. Or some people even go and marry these girls. Bring them to Bombay or Delhi and sell them off to the dens of prostitution. Now, after this happens, first of all, the villagers, the poor villagers, they don't know what exactly happened to the child. Very often they don't report these matters. So, the number of reported cases as far as trafficking is concerned is very small. But according to UN Women and United Nations various branches of UN which have been doing these calculations, they say about 1 million women and children get trafficked in India every year. This, you may think that it is too exaggerated, but it's not exaggerated. They are basing their research on available data. Even if there is some element of exaggeration in this, the problem is very huge. And India is seen as a source, as a destination and transit country for sex trafficking and forced labor. So now these are the background things. So I thought I will touch upon policing in general. Where do we stand? As you all know, as citizens, our police is a mixed bag. We have brilliant police officers in all ranks, even in the rank of constable and sub-inspector. I have seen brilliant fellows, fantastic people, people of high integrity and who stand up against illegitimate activities. But very large number of people are also criminals in uniform. So the general impression about the police is very negative. We have competent and mediocre people. We have very upright and very corrupt people. We have people who are very well behaved and the opposite, aggressive, brutal in their behavior. While the police station is the cutting edge in terms of police service delivery, most of the states, not most of the states, at least many states in the country, police stations are very badly neglected. Subordinate police officers are very poorly trained. In fact, why I started this police foundation was that after a fairly longish central deputation, when I went back to my state, I went to visit our police training institution. And to my horror, I asked for the syllabus of the sub-inspector training. And the syllabus that was produced before me was a typewritten sheet of paper which was typed before I joined service. And I was so shocked and shaken that I thought maybe I am also responsible, because I belonged to this cadre and I was also responsible for this, for total neglect of police training. Some states have done well. It's not that all states are like this. Some states have done well, especially South Indian states have done fairly well in terms of training. But in the north, many states have failed. Posting in the training institutions in the police is seen as a punishment posting. Unlike in the army, where the best people are chosen in the armed forces for training purposes. The other thing is the working conditions of police persons. Yesterday I was reading in the newspapers that some policemen have started adopting cows, and the cows will be staying with them in the police stations. I am not joking. It was there in yesterday's newspapers. It was being reported on TV also. But what came to my mind was a letter that I had written after I visited some of the barracks of policemen, because they live like cattle. In many states, the living conditions of policemen are like, comparable to cattle's accommodation. And we haven't done much about improving this. And usually, the working time, there are times when our police people come for duty and go back home after 4 or 5 days of continuous duty. This is not uncommon. But 12 to 15 hours is a common thing, as far as policemen is concerned. Now, the problem is that they are so deprived of good living conditions, sleep deprivation, and all kinds of things are there. And these things impact on their behavior with the public. And we have been talking to a number of behavioral scientists. I'm sure there may be behavioral scientists in this group also. And many of them have told us that it is because of these kind of poor living conditions and working conditions that manifest in the form of, various kinds of negative behavior on the part of policemen towards the general public. Say they become irritable, and some of them take to aggressive behavior. The other thing is about our policing structure officially. Now, you all know that policing, or the Indian police itself, was conceived by the British. Not on the lines of the British Bobby. They designed a police system to subjugate the subjects of India, to perpetrate the colonial rule. But when they left, the police officers, senior officers who took over or inherited, this is true of the IAS also, the Indian Civil Service also. The IAS succeeded the Indian Civil Service, and the IPS succeeded the IP. Now these, seniors who took over, they found it is a very comfortable thing to continue in the same colonial structure, because you have all the powers and no accountability. Like as DGP, if I keep my chief minister happy, I don't have to care about anyone else. I can do whatever I want to do. I have to keep the Chief Minister happy. This is happening in every state. Not today, it has been happening right since independence. So, this system, we have a vested interest in perpetrating the system. If we open up policing to a Western model, then we become vulnerable to various kinds of questioning by the public. But here, the interesting thing is that the politicians and the bureaucracy also find it very comfortable, because they can intervene at any time that they want, get things done according to their requirements. I can get cases registered against my political opponents, arrest selected people, or not arrest people who belong to my clan, etc. So this is a major issue. And this is one reason why, you must have heard, after independence, several police commissions have been set up and they have submitted beautiful reports. In fact, some of them are such beautiful reports. But they have all been neatly tied up and put in the steel boxes in the Home Ministry. Nobody reads them. And every time something happens, one Padmanabhaiah committee or a Ribeiro committee or a Soli Sorabji committee is set up. And the report comes and it is again locked up. So that is because there is a huge vested interest as far as politics is concerned. No politician in this country, from prime ministers down, has had the guts to say, yes, I will free up the police from illegitimate political interference. Of course, we are in a democracy. There has to be political oversight. Democratic oversight is part of our constitution. That oversight is okay. It is necessary also. Policemen should not be allowed to run amok. That control, strict control, internal controls are required. But at the same time, interferences, illegal interferences. You must be seeing all kinds of things being reported on newspaper every day, in which police is playing with the politicians. Even CBI has been doing these kind of things. You will find that some cases are kept in the cold storage, and suddenly when there is a political development happening, there will be action against that politician. Some newspaper will say that CBI is calling so and so for questioning. Till then it was lying in the cold storage. So, like that. The other thing is, there is very little police-citizen engagement in this country. We talk about community policing, etc., but it doesn't really happen. In most other countries, developed countries, that police community interface is very active and very, laudable levels of communication takes place. But here, that interaction does not take place. And that public confidence and trust has eroded so much. And at the same time, politically there is no urgency for police reform or modernization. Once a while, you will find there is a huge public demand that we want change. Like when there was a Nirbhaya case, or when Anna Hazare was having an agitation. So like that, in some of those, moments in history, suddenly 100,000 people will gather in Ramlila and say that we want change. But then that doesn't sustain. After a day or two, things are forgotten again, and we are back to square one. So it was in this background that we thought about setting up a police foundation And it was inaugurated in the year 2015, and we started work only about 2.5 years back. So, as was mentioned here, we try to bring citizens and police together. And as I said, there is a need for improving police-public conversation and communication levels, and also bringing multidisciplinary external expertise to law enforcement. So I'm not going into all these details, what we do, etc. But we need to understand that policing keeps changing. The policing that was very relevant 20 years or 10 years back is no longer relevant now. What I learned in the police academy has no relevance today, because there is so much of technological changes and social changes that are happening that police also has to keep pace. So in this digital world, our policemen need to become professionally, literate to deal with digital challenges of the day. So, when we see so much of disruptive and transformational technology available, police also has to undergo that transformation. That's why, as I mentioned in the beginning, unlike in other countries, we don't have a culture of universities and practitioners working together in this country. It is very important. You will see that in the US, I have attended several programs in the Harvard University, for example. You will find the teachers there are mostly who were serving in government in the previous regime. Most of the teachers there were serving in government in very high places in government. So they come to teach, and later on in their life cycle they may again go back to government. So both academia and practice, government practice, both get enriched. And research informing practice is a culture in other parts of the world, whereas in our country, we don't talk to each other. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to bring institutions of higher learning, researchers, and policemen together. So external expertise we try to get from academia, corporates, IT industry especially, and legal profession. There is immense potential for law enforcement to transform the delivery of police service delivery, that means, by working closely with corporate and the academic world. And this is the way forward. It is not about taking a lathi and beating people. Those days are gone. Now we have to work with the citizens, take the stakeholders into confidence, understand what their problems are, and then work. So there is a huge possibility of police forces to apply technologies and know-how through high-quality research. And that research is possible only if they interface with academic world. Policemen have tremendous amount of, ground level practice, experience and wisdom. But they don't have research techniques they don't know. They cannot research. Whereas, academicians may be great researchers, but they may not have touch with the reality. That's why it is necessary that academics and practitioners should come together. There is a way forward. So I'll just quickly take 1 or 2 minutes more. these are some of our, this is a stakeholder consultation we had done in Ahmedabad, in Hyderabad, in Bangalore. So these are stakeholder consultations on women's safety, which we have been doing, the Police Foundation has been doing. For your information, the next women's safety stakeholder consultation is scheduled to be held in Pune on the 11th of this month. This was in Lucknow. And we have also set up a informal parliamentary group, a kind of caucus, what happens in the US. That was the idea of parliamentarians who are interested in police reform and reforming the criminal justice system. So this was very well attended. We started this in January 2018. These are some of our governing board members. Mr. Prakash Singh, you must be all knowing. He is a very celebrated police officer who went to the Supreme Court. Mr. G.K. Pillai, Mr. Deepak Parekh, who is the HDFC chairman, Mr. Ribeiro, Mr. Raghu Raman, who was in NADGRID, Professor Parasu Raman was the director of the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Mr. R.K. Raghavan, CBI, former CBI director. Then we have Maya Darwala, who is the CHRI director. Mr. Vijay Kumar, who is now in Kashmir as the advisor to governor. Deputy NSA, Mr. Ravi. Then the next gentleman is the director of IIT Kanpur, Kharagpur, Professor Abhay Karandikar. Then Mr. Godbole, former Home Secretary, Mr. Shamal Datta, former DIB and governor, etc. So recently we have a few more people who have joined, like General Atta Hasnain and a few others have joined us. So we have a mixed people from all walks of life, as was mentioned. So what we need from you is your citizenship and active partnership in driving this change. Your support, your ideas and intellectual skills to enhance this campaign. I will not go into this. So this is what I wanted to tell you. The theme, the message that I wanted to leave is that good policing is essential for good economic growth and also for good governance. I mean, good democracy. Because more than economic growth, if we don't modernize the police and control the police, it can be a dangerous thing for the democracy itself. As I showed you in the beginning, we are almost near Pakistan, but we should never reach there. Unless we are careful, there is a danger. So it is very important that we protect our governance institutions and make sure that they work according to the rule of law and they uphold the rule of law. Thank you.